Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt a shift in your energy, like you were absorbing something invisible, something heavy that didn't belong to you? Have you ever cried for someone you barely knew or felt an ache in your chest for strangers you passed on the street? If so, you may be more than just sensitive. You may be one of the rare empathic chosen one souls specifically designed by God to carry the emotional burdens, spiritual frequencies, and healing codes of this planet. But here's the truth no one tells you. Not all empaths are chosen, and not all chosen ones are empaths. When those two identities overlap, it creates a soul of such rare magnitude that even the universe pauses to protect and prepare them. And the signs that God sends to reveal this role are not always beautiful. Sometimes they break you before they bless you. The first sign is that your pain has always felt deeper than everyone else's. You don't just feel sad, you drown in sadness. You don't just experience loss, you merge with it. From a young age, you carried more than your share of emotional weight. You may have been the one in your family who felt like the emotional sponge, the lightning rod for everyone else's chaos. When others were angry, you felt exhausted. When they were grieving, you shut down. But what if I told you this wasn't a flaw? What if I told you this was divine wiring? God made you like this because only a soul like yours could transmute collective pain into wisdom. You were built to feel deeply, not to suffer, but to heal. Pain is your portal, and that's what makes you different. That's what makes you chosen. While others run from emotion, you walk straight into it. And in doing so, you carry light where others only see darkness. The second sign is isolation. Not just being alone, but feeling alone profoundly, cosmically, and chronically. It's like no matter who's around you, you still feel like an outsider. You've probably asked God, why did you make me feel everything and then separate me from everyone? But here's the hidden truth. Isolation is sacred training. God separates His chosen ones to prepare them. When you're alone, you're not being punished, you're being purified. The noise of the world is turned down so the voice of God can be turned up. In that silence, you begin to hear the instructions, the downloads, the spiritual blueprints that are uniquely yours. You begin to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. And that memory, it's not just for you. It's for others who are still lost in the noise. The third sign is that you've always been a mirror. People project onto you. They love you, hate you, admire you, envy you, and often they don't even know why. You trigger things in people without trying to. Your very presence confronts them with their own shadows. That's because you reflect truth, not by preaching, not by persuading, but simply by being. You mirror what they're avoiding in themselves. This is why relationships have been so complex for you.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
People either cling to you like lifeboats or run from you like wildfires. You may have blamed yourself. You may have thought, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just be normal? But you weren't made to be normal. You were made to be transformational. And transformation is rarely comfortable. Your empathy doesn't just feel, it activates. You remind people of their buried pain and their untapped power. That's why they react. That's why it's so intense. The fourth sign is dreams and visions, especially ones that come true. You've probably had dreams that seem symbolic, only to see them unfold in real life days or weeks later. Or maybe you've had visions while meditating or even while walking in nature, brief flashes of insight that felt like they came from somewhere beyond. This is not imagination. This is divine communication. Empathic chosen ones are conduits. You are a receiver of coded information from higher realms. While others are bound by what they see, you are guided by what you sense. God speaks to you not just in language, but in symbols, in patterns, in frequencies. The world will try to convince you that you're overthinking, too mystical, too sensitive, but the world is afraid of what it cannot measure. And your gift, your real gift, is beyond measurement. Let me ask you something. What would your life look like if you stopped doubting your sensitivity and started treating it as sacred? What if every tear, every intuitive hit, every overwhelming emotional wave wasn't a weakness but a message? What if your empathy is the compass God gave you to navigate this chaotic world? The fifth sign is that nature heals you faster than people. When you're in crowds, your energy depletes. But when you're near trees, rivers, oceans, or mountains, you feel whole again. That's because your soul vibrates closer to the Earth's natural rhythm than the artificial frequency of modern society. You're not crazy for needing solitude. You're not antisocial for needing to retreat. You're simply recharging in the presence of divine order. The Earth speaks to you in silence. The wind carries messages. The stars remind you of home. You are not just connected to nature, you are nature, wrapped in human skin. And when you align with that truth, you stop seeking validation from a world that was never designed to understand you. The sixth sign is that you've experienced a spiritual attack not once, but many times. When you carry divine light, darkness notices. Your life may have been filled with strange illnesses, sudden betrayals, inexplicable losses. And just when you get back up, something else hits. This isn't random. This is warfare. But here's what most people don't understand. When darkness fights you, it's because it fears you. It sees your potential before you do. Every attack is a clue. Every battle is evidence that something powerful is waking up inside you. You were chosen not because you're invincible, but because you're willing. And willingness is more powerful than perfection. The seventh sign, that one changes everything. But that's for the next part. There's a hidden power that lives within the soul of a real empathic chosen one. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It doesn't demand recognition. In fact, most people will never even see it working. But it's there, quietly turning pain into wisdom, suffering into strength, and emotional chaos into divine clarity. This is what I call emotional alchemy. And if you are truly chosen, if you carry empathy not as a burden but as a divine assignment, then you are already an alchemist. You transmute what others cannot even hold. You carry what others drop. But you don't just survive it, you transform it. That's the essence of your power. Let's talk about the seventh rare sign God sends to reveal this sacred role. You are the one people come to when their world collapses. Not because you have all the answers, but because your presence feels like home. People break down in front of you without knowing why. They confess, they unravel, they release. And sometimes they leave. They feel lighter, healed, even if they never say thank you. And you're left with the weight of what they've shed. This has happened to you again and again, friends, strangers, even people you barely know gravitate toward you in their darkest moments. That's not coincidence. That's calling. You are a vessel for divine healing, and the people who are drawn to you are responding to something their soul recognizes your light. But here's the secret most people never realize. Being an emotional alchemist doesn't mean you're always calm, always loving, or always balanced. It means you feel everything, sometimes too much, and still find the courage to stay open. You still choose compassion over bitterness, healing over harm, truth over comfort. You don't suppress pain, you process it. You work through it. You let it teach you. And then somehow you offer that understanding to others without even trying. That's why people feel safe around you. That's why they trust you with things they've never told anyone. You hold a frequency of honesty and heart that cannot be faked. And that frequency? It was forged in fire. Do you realize how many storms you've walked through that were never even yours? How many tears you've cried that didn't belong to you? How many times you've held space for others when no one was holding space for you? This is what separates you from the rest. This is what makes you chosen. You are the soul medic of this generation. You are the bridge between human pain and divine truth. You are the one who can sit in the darkness with someone and not flinch. You don't need to fix them. You just be with them, and in that being, something miraculous happens. They start to heal. But I know what you're thinking right now. Who heals the healer? Who holds the empath? And that's the deepest question of all. Because the empathic chosen one often walks the loneliest path. We carry light for others, but we often stumble through our own shadows in silence. We give endlessly, but rarely receive with the same depth. And sometimes, we start to believe that this is our fate to feel, to give, to carry, alone. But that's the lie. That's the test. The truth is, you were never meant to do this alone. You were meant to do it with God. Your empathy is not just emotional, it's spiritual. It's a channel, a direct connection to the divine. When you begin to understand that, everything shifts. You stop depending on the world to refill you, and you start drawing from the eternal well within. You stop seeking validation from people who were never meant to understand your depth. You stop asking for permission to rest, to heal, to receive. You realize that your sensitivity is a sacred compass pointing you back to your source. You remember that God didn't give you this empathy to drain you, He gave it to empower you. But that only happens when you learn to manage it, to protect it, to honor it. So how do we do that? How do we protect something so open, so vulnerable, so exposed? We create spiritual boundaries, not walls, but filters. We learn to feel without absorbing. We learn to witness without carrying. We learn to say no without guilt, to rest without shame, to ask for help without fear. We stop being martyrs and start becoming conscious channels. Because the truth is, when we learn to take care of our energy, our empathy becomes unstoppable. It becomes a force that can heal generations, shift paradigms, and awaken hearts. Let me ask you something. What would your life look like if you fully stepped into this power, without apology, without hesitation, without shrinking to make others comfortable? That's the invitation now. You've seen the signs. You've remembered the calling. You've felt the weight. But now it's time to own the gift, not just in private, but out loud, in your choices, in your presence, in your life. If you've made it this far, then something deep inside you already knows. This path isn't just about feeling deeply. It's about surviving what would have destroyed others. It's about carrying a sacred burden that can't be explained, only lived. And with that burden comes a reality that most people don't want to talk about. Real empaths, especially chosen ones, don't just walk through life unnoticed. They are targeted, spiritually, emotionally, energetically. Why? Because your light destabilizes darkness. Your presence disrupts illusions. Your energy unfiltered, raw, and divine triggers what this world has tried to bury. You don't even have to say a word. Your soul does the work for you. You've probably noticed patterns. People turning on you for no reason. Friends you poured into suddenly disappearing. Being blamed for emotions you never created. Being scapegoated in the very rooms you tried to heal. This isn't because you're flawed. It's because you're activated. When you carry divine empathy, you carry a mirror that reflects truth back to people, and not everyone is ready to see themselves. Your presence pulls up their repressed pain, suppressed memories, and unacknowledged guilt. Most people don't want healing, they want comfort. And you, dear empath, are not here to comfort egos. You're here to awaken souls. That's why you've been attacked. That's why you've been misunderstood. But here's what most forget. Every chosen one is protected. Not in the way you might expect, though. Not by avoiding pain, but by being preserved through it. You've been through things that should have broken you. Some of you many times over. You've faced betrayal, loss, heartbreak, spiritual warfare, yet here you are, still standing, still feeling, still open. That's not weakness. That's evidence of divine protection. Because even when you didn't know who you were, God did. Even when you were doubting yourself, the higher realms were fortifying you. There were moments where you cried out, "Why me?" And the universe whispered back, "Because I chose you." Let me tell you something hard but true. Chosen empaths undergo spiritual training that looks like suffering. Your childhood wasn't random. Your heartbreak wasn't meaningless. The abandonment, the isolation, the emotional abuse, it was all part of your soul's refinement. Not because God wanted you to suffer, but because He needed to prepare you. When you're sent to carry light into dark places, you have to know what darkness feels like. Empathy is not born in comfort. It's born in fire, and you were forged in fire. That's why you can sit with someone's pain and not flinch. That's why you can hold space for healing that others run away from. But what you must understand now is this: your survival wasn't just survival, it was initiation. There were battles you fought that no one saw, nights you cried with no one to hold you, days where you smiled while your soul bled, and yet something in you refused to shut down. That something is God's fingerprint. That's the part of you the darkness couldn't touch. That's the part of you that is being called forward now, because your pain has matured into power. You're not just sensitive anymore. You're spiritually weaponized. You've become a vessel not just for emotion, but for truth. And when truth walks into rooms, it doesn't whisper. It shakes things. It liberates. It destroys illusions. And yes, it will make people uncomfortable. But let me ask you this: will you shrink to be accepted by people who are only comfortable with lies? Or will you expand into the truth you were born to carry, even if it means walking alone? Because here's the paradox: the more you embody your gift, the lonelier it can feel. But that loneliness is sacred. It's not a punishment, it's a positioning. God removes you from certain places not to hurt you, but to hide you. You are not meant for every room. Your frequency is too high, your energy too pure, your mission too precise. You've been hidden, not to be forgotten, but to be protected. And when the time is right, you are revealed not to everyone, but to the ones who are ready. Ready to be healed, ready to be honest, ready to remember who they are. You are not here to be everything to everyone. You are here to be a lighthouse to the lost, a frequency for the seekers, a portal to divine remembrance. But to do that, you have to stop apologizing for your design. You have to stop explaining your sensitivity, your visions, your dreams, your depth. The world doesn't need another small soul trying to fit in. It needs your full light, unfiltered, unapologetic, unshaken. So yes, you've been attacked. Yes, you've been misunderstood. But you've also been called, chosen, and covered. And that's something no one can take from you. By now you understand that your empathy isn't random. It's not just a personality trait or a heightened sensitivity to emotion. It's a divine assignment and encoded mission placed in your soul by a creator who knew exactly what this world would need in times of darkness. You were designed to feel deeply, not as a flaw, but as a frequency. You are a tuning fork for truth, a carrier of emotional intelligence in a society that has been spiritually asleep. And now? Now is the time to step into that role, not partially, not eventually, but fully. Because the world is starving for what you carry. And it's not waiting for perfect people. It's waiting for willing ones. This final part is about embodiment. It's about what happens when you stop questioning the gift and start living it. When you stop asking for signs and understand that you are the sign. The moment you stop looking outward for permission and realize that God already said yes when He formed you. You were not sent here to fit into a broken system. You were sent to disrupt it with love, with truth, with presence. But to do that, you have to stop compromising your light for the comfort of others. You have to stop dimming your intuition so you can survive in spaces you've outgrown. The empathic chosen one must stand tall in their knowing, even when it's lonely, even when it's misunderstood. So how do we live this out practically? First, we must commit to radical alignment. That means our decisions, our relationships, our environments must match our spirit. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you delay your destiny. Every time you ignore your intuition to avoid conflict, you shrink your frequency. Your energy is your compass. If something feels off, it is off. It is off. Trust that. Follow that. Build a life where your peace is not negotiable and your purpose is not postponed. You don't need more clarity, you need more courage. The clarity comes when you move. Next, you must serve. Not in the way the world defines service as sacrifice and burnout, but as alignment with divine flow. When you serve from overflow, you heal others without hurting yourself. You lift while staying grounded. You give without becoming empty. That's the secret most empaths never discover. You were never meant to pour from your wounds. You were meant to pour from your wholeness. And wholeness doesn't come from being everything to everyone. It comes from being fully yourself. When you serve from that place, your work becomes effortless, magnetic, and eternal. That's when your mission activates. That's when your life stops being a struggle and becomes a channel. But to sustain this, you must stay spiritually nourished. You cannot be a light in the world if you don't protect your own flame. That means creating sacred rituals, daily stillness, regular connection with God, time in nature, boundaries that preserve your energy, relationships that pour back into you. You are not just here to help others, you are here to thrive. And your thriving is not selfish, it's strategic. Because every healed empath becomes a lighthouse for another empath still lost in the fog. And finally, you must own your light. No more shrinking. No more second-guessing. No more waiting to be ready. You're already ready. You've been through too much not to be. The pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Every breakdown was a breakthrough in disguise. Every loss was clearing space for alignment. Every rejection was God's redirection. And now you are being called to step forward, to be visible, to speak, to guide, to heal, to become. Let me ask you this one last, final question. What if your entire life, every painful moment, every lonely night, every time you felt too much was all leading to this moment, to this mission, to this message inside your soul begging to be lived? Because you were never just meant to feel. You were meant to transform. You were never just meant to absorb. You were meant to alchemize. You were never just meant to survive. You were meant to awaken others. This is your time. This is your calling. You are not just empathic. You are chosen. Now, live like it.